Hey friends, welcome back to Checkbox Other. Today we have a unique episode. We are joined in this episode by Pam. Pam is a coaching client of mine, and oh my goodness, am I excited for you to get to know more about Pam. But this episode in particular is a story of Pam's journey and her career journey and her unique experience with burnout, which I say unique because it's Pam's experience, but the idea of burnout itself is not unique. We're learning it more and more every day that burnout is prevalent pretty much everywhere. The pandemic for sure dialed up the occurrence of burnout, but it has been here for a while. It was something that in 2019, the World Health Organization designated as a syndrome. But it is something that is having pervasive impact on our health, on our collective workplaces, on our relationships with one another, and so on our mental health for sure. And so in this episode, Pam talks a lot about her career journey, her story, her experience with burnout, and how she's been navigating it. You will also hear a little window into what the coaching experience is like. And so many people that are thinking or considering about coaching are like, okay, cool, that sounds great, but what is it? And so I wanted to take some time to really hear from somebody that's experienced it, has experienced what coaching with me is like, but also what coaching is like in general, because I think it's important for us to shine a light on the things that we don't necessarily get to see until we've already gone through a transaction or signed up for however much time a coach will make you sign up for in order to work with them. So I hope this episode is helpful for you. And to just give you a little bit of background, Pam is somebody that I met back in, I think it was 2008, 2009. We used to work together, and you'll hear us talk a little bit about that. We worked together, and we actually had desks next to each other. And then over a decade later, 12 years later, maybe a little bit more, we reconnected because, and as Pam will tell you, she came across some of the information of the work that I was doing. Pam is a passionate, empathic leader with an extensive background in project and program management. She has over 15 years experience managing diverse teams, and she is dedicated to modernizing the employee experience by prioritizing employee wellness. You will hear this, and I think you will feel this throughout the episode. So if you are somebody who is considering a job change or even just pivoting your career completely to a different arena, this episode is for you. Pam and I have been working very, very, very closely on how we can have Pam and her unique brand of Pamness shine while also tapping into the things that she is super passionate about and she is uniquely strong around. And you will get so many insights into what that process has been about. But if you have been trying to figure out, is coaching for me? When should I go work with a coach? And, am I the right person? I feel like this episode will help kind of clear some of that up. And, again, I say this in this episode, but if you're considering coaching, I am not saying that I am for you. If you like this and you want to chat and you've been listening to this podcast, yes, please, let's talk. And also, trust. So much of your intuition will help you figure out who is right for you. So this is intended to give you a window into that experience. And if I feel like a good fit for you, please do reach out. You can go to nikkiannison.com/coaching and you can see all the different ways that we can work together. We do live group coaching every week on Thursdays, and I do private coaching. If you have some questions or want more information, don't hesitate to reach out to us at info@nikkiannison.com, and we will be sure to answer any questions that you have and hopefully point you in the right direction that feels like it's in alignment with your needs at this point in time. So without further ado, I'm excited for you to meet Pam. Pam, welcome to Checkbox Other. I am so happy that you are here today. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Nikki.
So for all of you, you've heard me say this before, but the amount of joy in my body, the heat going through my body that Pam is here right now, I'm trying to tell you because you can't feel it, but it's here. Pam is absolutely amazing and I'm so excited for you to meet her. So the first thing we do is I pass the mic over to you to tell a Cliff Notes version of your journey, your story, aha moments, twists, turns, pivots, whatever you feel is relevant or necessary for us to learn about the wonderful Pam to start this off.
All right. My goodness, so many places to go, so little time. Let's see. Well, I think they call me an elder millennial. So we'll start with that. I have about 15 to 20 years of experience, but who's counting? In marketing and project management, also people management. I'm a full-time working mom of 2 girls who are my heart and soul. And I've had the pleasure of working with some of, I don't know, the most talented and amazing people who have honestly shaped just who I am today and what I bring into the world and my career. And as part of that, I've also just invested very heavily in them as well. And it's something that I always did naturally, but recently realized is a strength that I have. And furthermore, something I find very fulfilling and really enjoy. Um, so a couple years ago, I don't know, I think at the time I would have thought I was at like the peak of my career. I was working for like one of the best companies. I became a manager there. I became a mom there. I was a top performing employee. I had a wonderful reputation, just an awesome career track, loved the people I was working with, and honestly thought that I might retire there. And then one of those snap moments happened. I would say it was probably like a snap 18 months, but it was a snap moment. Now looking back, I came back from my second maternity leave, and just a sort of perfect storm of challenges emerged. And the long and short of it is, my workload became unsustainable. Aspects of my personal life were becoming unsustainable. Ended up burning out. And that sort of led to other things like imposter syndrome, which was terrifying. And then not knowing how to cope and deal with imposter syndrome and burnout, and just burning harder and faster and longer. And that ended up leading to mental health issues, which then spiraled into me desperately needing a break and wishing harm on myself to get a break. um, I, I scheduled an elective surgery to get a break and did go through with it. I don't recommend that, so it's not an endorsement for it, but I did do a surgery just to get a break. And I planned it around my projects, but like, you've never seen a happier person going into surgery. So I was like, yes, I'm going to finally get this mental break. Had no idea how bad my health was at the time. Got a break, came back to work, quickly spiraled again. Didn't realize it at the time, but like all of the things that were making me unhealthy were completely out of my control. It was an environmental situation. And so ended up resigning that job with no job to go to, which again was terrifying.
Yep.
Started seeing a psychologist, psychiatrist, ended up medicating, and finally kind of like came back to life. I, was diagnosed with severe anxiety and clinical depression, which was again another aha, like, holy smokes, I had no idea what was happening to me and that it was that bad and that I couldn't fix it. And spent the whole next like 4 or 5 months just at home focusing on me, having time for me for the first time since at least becoming a mom.
Yeah.
And it was wonderfully freeing and liberating. I slept in like almost every day.
Yeah.
I did yard work. I was outside, during the summer when normally I would have been in an office looking at all the other people outside from my window, very sadly. And slowly kind of climbed back to a point where I was confident enough to re-enter the workforce. And then I've had 2 really great contract gigs from there. But that experience fundamentally changed me and my value system. And as horrible of a stumbling block or a challenge as it was, I wouldn't change it for anything, because it's given me this new, fresh, beautiful perspective on life and how I want to live it. Before I sort of start to run out of time and have that, oh, I wish I had done, sort of mentality. So that has been guiding my career and my life ever since. And I feel so enlightened and so fortunate, 1, to be healthy, but 2, to have gone through that and now be able to be in a position to share and sort of mold that into my management and leadership style, and kind of protect my team and my family members and the people in my life, who I never want to have to go through that. So it's been a real game changer.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for sharing that. I personally feel like I had known some of your story and not all of it. And so I feel like there is so much to be proud of in yourself. My goodness, I feel like just the ability to, first of all, the ability to say all of that in such a wonderful way was great. And also the twists and turns that happen in that moment of 18 months, that's that moment you meant, that snap moment. And also even since that are feel so isolating and are also so universal, right? Like that kind of discovery of this is a very isolating, lonely experience. I must be the only person dealing with this because everybody else seems to be operating fine right now. And then being like, oh, okay, wait, this is a larger issue. The systems in play are not actually allowing me to be the human being that I am. And I know I have the potential to be, but also I'm just born as. And it's so funny because I think the part that I don't know if it was kind of unspoken, is like before the snap, right? Of I was doing it. I was like on the right path. I was on whatever the ride was supposed to be. It was quote unquote smooth, but also was it smooth or was I just used to it? Did I have the stamina and resilience to just keep using every single aspect of myself to do stuff for somebody else and not really take care of myself? And then when I had the opportunity to kind of take that break again, I always think it's so silly when we call maternity leave a break because it's not. As someone that has never had a child, it is not a break. And so for somebody that has had a child is like, Nikki, you don't even know. But also the level of, just the way our systems and our structures set up. Oh, well, isn't it just so nice that you're home? This is its own, this is the harder, for many people, it's a harder job than they've ever had before in their life. And then to do that twice, right? So I'm so fascinated by the fact that all of the discovery that you had personally in those breaks of maternity leave, I can't even say it without like a eye roll internally and externally. How when you re-entered and you're talking about like, okay, I was on the track to burnout. How did that feel different? How did that very much like, how was it so obvious that it was burnout rather than, I think a lot of people, especially right now where a lot of words get distorted and used in places that they might not necessarily be appropriate, or to make something like I was uncomfortable, so I was so burnt out. It's like, no. This isn't just being tired. Can you talk a little bit about how you knew? Because again, being a parent of two, being somebody that's a high achiever at one of the top companies in the world, like that you were working hard and tired and overwhelmed in moments before that as well, I'm sure. How did this feel different?
Yeah, so I think the one key word in the difference was manageable, right? Even high performers have their limits. When I was stressed before, there was almost like an excitement to it. I liked kind of having a little bit of a fire and having this challenge of gotta race and get this project done. Or then there was always some sort of like cookie at the end, or I could see the end. And I knew that I would get through it. There was a confidence there. Like, I know what I'm doing. I know how long this is going to take. I'm a project manager. I'm going to put a plan together. I will have my milestones. I will have my checklist. And everything about going through that process was very like check and balance. And, I knew that I just needed to grind for so long.
Yep.
And then there would be a break. With burnout, I did not feel that. It was very much the opposite. It was, I did not feel in control. There was no end in sight. There was a lack of confidence, a lack of support from others that I hadn't experienced before. And to your point about like that isolating feeling, especially when you're in a high performing environment, and the work is relentless and it seems like everybody else is fine, you're almost denied psychological safety to say, I'm at my limit here. And when you do, you're putting yourself in a dangerously vulnerable situation.
Yeah.
And I asked for help. And for me to ask for help, like my hair's on fire and my eyes are bleeding. Like this isn't like me whining. Like,
yeah.
I'm beyond overflowing. And I I was shocked with for me in my situation, I was shocked with the sort of response that I got. It was like, everybody's overworked, Pam. Like, you just need to like dig deeper, work harder, prioritize better, manage your time. Like, there's no way that, that that you can't get this done. I know you. And in a way, it was like, okay, I know that. But in my mind, I'm like, I really don't have anything left to give. I have an infant at home. I have meetings all day. I have trains to catch. Like, I have very few hours left in the 24-hour period just to sleep. And so that then led to physical symptoms where I used to love going to work, and just waking up in the morning, I had like a raging headache, and I'd be like, God, I wish I had the flu. Like, I wish I was sick.
Right.
Get the kids where they need to go. And I felt like there was an elephant on my chest, or I was going to have a heart attack just getting to work. And then walking through the door, there was this deep feeling of dread and this, I'm struggling, but I have to pretend that I am not. I have to pretend that I am okay, because I have been messaged that there's no help coming. Like,
I am the
and
help
just
one way
shut
or
up and
another.
get the work done.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
make it happen, Pam. Like,
Yeah.
just make it happen. Everybody else is making it happen. So you start to internalize that. And then, I was losing sleep. I was not eating. I'd start having like panic attacks and getting really paranoid. And then, seeing everybody else seemingly being fine, I'm like, maybe I just can't do this anymore. Maybe I'm just not as good, and then people are kind of adding the like, well, you're a mom, and, like, we have a baby at home, and oh, poor you, it's like,
Right.
no, I had a baby before and I was doing fine. Like, something was different. And it just kind of like snowballed from there. But to be honest, I did not know I was burning out until I was out of it. Like, until I like basically needed a, a mental health break.
Yeah.
And I don't even think burnout was officially coined a term until shortly after I had gone through that experience. So burnout was just kind of like one of those things you'd say, like, I'm really tired. I had no idea that it was an actual disease or a medical condition. So managed is really like the key word. It's unmanaged chronic stress of a workplace nature. And there's a lot of environments out there like that, and it can be incredibly toxic. And I think now I know the signs, and it's just elevated certain values of mine that weren't high enough at the time, where I'm going to protect that health at all costs. No job is worth my mental health. And that's kind of like my mantra for my team and my colleagues and my peers and my friends. It was definitely a life-changing experience, very eye-opening, very hard, but also something that has unexpectedly yielded a lot of very positive things as a result.
For sure. It's so important, I think, to talk about what seemingly is universal. The whole if I'm asking you for help, and I think there are so many people, especially women in the workplace, that when I'm asking you for help, I know that there is a right way and a wrong way to do that. And I also know that I have to work even more if this is a male dominated space, right? So there's a lot of kind of pieces that we just forget or we choose not to acknowledge. And then to have, when you're finally in that place of, I actually can't MacGyver myself, my life, my schedule around to magically make this seem like it's no big deal, to have the response be nullifying, canceling out the reality of what's happening, minimizing it, is its own infliction of pain on top of it. And so, it is so important to have managers that can honor and hold space for that. But I also think managers that have the familiarity of not projecting their own stuff on you. If you're in, and I think you and I share a similar background in the sense that, like, where we came from, work hard, play hard was like number one value. And so if that is where your company's operating from, which is a huge swath of corporate America, you are operating from, I'm not actually allowed to do soft, because it's either working hard or playing hard. There is no turning down the volume. There is no reality that I can actually take a minute. There's no rest in that. The work hard, play hard, there's no rest, there's no
Unrelenting.
anything. Right. And so when somebody is operating in that space and has progressed to a position of management, whether that be because their management skills are there or they just have been there for a certain amount of years, if you come to them and say, hey, this is too much, and it makes them realize, wait, is it too much? Shit, it's been too much for me for so long, but this is what I tell myself. So I'm going to tell you, keep going, suck it up, push through, keep going. I'm not going to listen to the fact that there's so many elements and aspects that made you come here, because I can't handle that level of discomfort. And so as a manager, it is so important to not only work on your own shit, if you can, in the ways that work well for you, but also to realize that your experience and the people around you's experience are separate. And as a manager, it is your job to be able to understand what is projection and what is the ability for me to hold this space. And so I really do think when we think about that fear, because there's so many people I work with that like, they're afraid to talk to their manager. They're afraid to say, I have a question. Like that's a culture that we've been brought up in, is like, you better have the answer. Don't ask any questions because it'll make you look weak or inept. And there's somebody else who's going to have it. Or, you're constantly getting reviewed in every moment of every day. But what would happen if we actually created a culture where it's like, hey, I tried this. Can you help me? And actually genuinely created a collaborative culture, and one that's focused on healing. And so I think it is so important to honor and acknowledge the fact that you might not know what it is in the moment. That's not your job. Your job is to honor the experience that you're having. And it's your manager's job, if they have been given the title of manager and the position of manager, to be able to honor and acknowledge what you're bringing to the party. And so I think there is so much value in saying, especially when we're talking about burnout, you might not know that's the word. It might feel, and this is why I said in the beginning, people say burnout like it's, the word like it is just everywhere. And so it starts to dilute it. It starts to make it mean nothing, that you're like, but I'm pretty sure I am. Like, I literally can't feed myself. I mean, for me, it's a couple different ways. Now I can look back. I have cycles that still come because it's still a part of this experience, different levels. But like, there was a year in my career where I threw up every day.
Oh my God.
And I just thought, oh, well, I'm stressed. What am I eating? And it had nothing to, I mean, I'm sure food wasn't helping one way or another, but the issue was chronic stress, to the point where my body knew, my mind didn't. My mom was like, keep going. My body's like, we need to get whatever you're doing to us out of us. That was what was happening. But we don't realize, like you're talking about, I scheduled an elective freaking surgery to just have a minute. Yeah. And really that's recovery, right? Like that's not even like I'm getting like nap time. It's not that's not I'm sleeping late. That's literally like I'm putting my body under sedation or whatever. I'm having somebody do something where my body's gonna have to heal so I can recover from my workplace.
Yep. Without judgment or right. them knowing
right.
that I am mentally burnt out. I am right. totally burnt out. To give myself that break. Yeah. It's crazy.
It's, it's the thing, it is. And also it's common, right? That's the thing that we're learning more and more. It's that like burnout is very real. It is very much a part of our culture. It is as there was a podcast episode that I did recently, I don't even know what's time anymore, but there was a whole podcast I did about the kind of push to go back into the office. I think it was April maybe of last year. Of like, come on, you better be back in the office or else. So just like push through this global pandemic where everybody's ability to stay alive and use their lungs is at stake. Just keep pushing harder, right? So it's not like we have a name for it, we talk about it, it's gone. We really have to work on the underpinnings that are allowing it to stay here, even when there's obvious examples time and time again of the mental, physical, emotional, psychological breaks that are happening throughout our culture because of it. I would love to hear how, I already know this, so I have a little sneak peek, but like how sharing your story of burnout, what has that done? How has that, I guess, helped you, but also in the I know you're talking about kind of being that manager, being that person. How has that kind of, what's been the response to that?
Surprisingly, very positive, overwhelmingly so. I did not broadly share my experience for at least 2 years after having gone through it, because, there's all this stigma and, especially when you're trying to re-enter the workforce, the last thing you want to say is, oh, I was on a mental health break. The last year or so has been pivotal in changing the narrative there. We've still got a long way to go, but it hadn't really tipped yet or approached that tipping point even when I did it. But my company had announced a return to work, return to office decision, and it happened while the pandemic was still going on, and they were forecasting when it would happen, and us all being remote and me having worked with remote staff even pre-COVID. I'm very trained to watch for people's body language and facial expressions when certain things drop. And one of the beauties of Zoom is you have this like Brady Bunch panel of, Bobby, Cindy,
Yeah.
Peter, how are they taking this news? And I could just see increasingly there was certainly no enthusiasm for it and a lot of concern. And a second thing that I do is I'm a relationship builder with my team. I want them to feel comfortable. Like, ignore my title. It doesn't matter if I'm more senior than you. Like, you can come to me and that is my job. And I want to know how you're doing. How's your workload? And this return to office was starting to become like a little bit of a thread that I wanted to pull on.
Yeah.
So we had this wonderful opportunity to talk to some senior leadership. It's a very open company, and my manager led the charge there with me and her peers, or me and my peers, her reports, and we basically just surveyed the team. We were like, what are our biggest concerns with this decision, and what are we hoping to get out of it? Really, we just wanted some flexibility to make case by case decisions so that people could feel healthy mentally and physically.
This was how to manage. This was how to manage the remote experience, whatever transition was happening during COVID, how each person wanted to kind of be able to show up at work.
That's right. Okay. Yes. And so like the one size fits all model that was being proposed really wasn't well received by a lot of folks. So we were trying to like create some transparency there without, making the employees feel uncomfortable. So the managers kind of broke apart all the feedback and came up with some themes that we wanted to present. And we were like, you can speak if you want on this call, but we want you to know we are going to represent you anonymously. And so one of the themes that came up was, this effect of mental health on people, the stress of the commute, the stress of not having childcare the way that it used to be, the stress of getting sick, the anxiety, and how that can affect your ability to perform at a high level, and how that was very concerning for us, and how we might even lose people over it.
Yeah.
And it was the night before the meeting, and I was like, what is the best, most compelling argument I can put forth to get this conversation to go well for my team? What can I do? And I had that aha moment, and I'm like, oh my God, I got to tell my story. I have to show what happened to me in a similar situation to make it real. And I did. And it was, I could not believe the response that I got from my team afterwards. People who hadn't even worked directly with me. Yeah. I heard from every single person saying, thank you for being so vulnerable. I've dealt with mental health issues too. I'm here for you. Thank you for putting a face to this. I can't believe you did this. I so appreciate you, saying what you said, because that's exactly how it feels. And I don't think people get that. Yeah. And it was in that moment that I unexpectedly became a mental health advocate. And it was just, another unplanned spark moment. I'm like, oh my goodness. I was honestly very nervous to tell my story. But I cared more about my team than myself in that moment. And then to see how that brought us together as a team afterwards, and how it has continued to be a bond through that vulnerable experience has just continued to put a smile on my face. I offered openly to be somebody that anybody on the team could come to if they were experiencing feelings and they didn't know what to do. What did I do? That was a very foreign experience for me. So I offered to share that. And I did have people over the next year come to me and say, I think I need to see someone, but I don't know what to do, or where to start, or even how to go about it. And I don't really want anybody else to know. What did you do? And it was such a wonderful thing, especially during COVID, when you want so badly to help and you're feeling totally helpless, that here is this path where I can help people. So shortly after that meeting, I was invited to speak on a mental health storytelling panel at the company, which I accepted, was freaking out, but I'm like, oh my God, okay, cool. Like this, it went well. So now I can actually like help more people. This will be great. And got a very similar reaction from people I'd never met before, saying, oh my God, I feel like you were telling my story. And I've made all these wonderful connections. And through that evolution, it's actually made me realize that this is something I've been doing for a really long time, advocating for employees, sticking my neck out there, not to be a martyr, but because like, I don't care what anybody else thinks, like my team needs help. My team is unhappy. Someone needs support. I cannot turn a blind eye to that person. And now there are jobs out there where this is what you can do at a macro level to impact change and, stem the tide of the Great Resignation and help employees retain their workforce and attract more people in. And it's all because the workplace has just become like a void of empathy. And it's free and it's easy, but we've been so trained out of it for so long, coming from these relentless, like, do the work, get it done, work hard, play hard. We've basically been treated like machines.
Yes, we have.
And not like humans. And I don't want to be a machine ever again. And I don't want to be in a position where I have to make other people feel like they have to be machines. And so my whole thing now is I'm an empathic leader. I want my employees' well-being and their mental health and their balance and their personal lives to be their priority, so that they can be healthy and contribute to the work, but not, live to work.
Right.
And it's been a wonderful, eye-opening experience that has fundamentally shifted where I want my career to go.
Well, I am just so excited for all the people that got to bear witness and the people that are listening right now that are getting to bear witness again. I do think it is so important to acknowledge the fact that we really have become a very robotic culture. And we're seeing that over and over again because our machine broke. Our machine keeps breaking, and we keep trying to just push through on tracks that are broken. And so as I think of how this experience of burnout and discovery have just been so, I don't know, there's a part of it that feels a little bit, I don't know, kismet, I guess, is part of it. Like the timing of them, that just even how they flow into one another, and also how very much you come through. Like, I remember when I met you, like you were I met you, God,
almost 12 years ago.
I was gonna say more than 10 years ago. And like, there was the undeniable, this is who Pam is. And I think as you're talking about like the way that you lead, I feel like very similarly, there are so many women that are standing in places being like, I know what bad management feels like. I will stand in between that and these people. I will ensure that I am not allowing that to kind of come through. Oftentimes that is through invisible labor and not getting promotions or not being called manager when that's what you're doing. So as you're stepping into that space, I think it's so important, right? How, you and I reconnected as we're kind of talking about bringing authenticity and how you can step into these, they're like new roles, new labels, new titles, and that void is attempting to be filled, right, by different companies that are actually seeing the extreme value and necessity of what has been coined HR in the past, and therefore seen as soft skills and behind the scenes and not that important. But as we have record numbers of people leaving the workforce, we have people being like, the reason I'm leaving is because the employee experience sucks. The reason I'm leaving is because I tell my boss I need help and they tell me to buck up. Right. The reason I'm leaving is because I'm supposed to not go to my own wedding to make sure that this deadline that's a fire drill that somebody else should have done 2 weeks ago is now on me, but they'll take the credit for it. Like this culture of really what I think is, disturbingly imbalanced individualism and also inhumanity. When we don't see ourselves as people, we don't see other people as people. It makes it so it's really easy to put profits over people, for sure. So as you're thinking about like, okay, this is a thing, it's very obvious the case is here. I mean, you and I both come from background of management consulting, make that case, make sure that you are viable in the way of a business. Like the case is all over every LinkedIn feed, every news station that's talking about the workplace. How have you kind of thought about stepping into that? I know you and I have been working together. How has coaching kind of helped with that? And how do you see kind of this experience of stepping into a new role? How has that been felt for you?
Sure. It's felt liberating and really fulfilling. It's almost like the first time in, I guess, almost 20 years, since that's how long I've been working, where I'm like, I know what I want to do. I know my purpose. I know what my path is meant to be. And now it's just a question of like, that path is over there. How do I get to it? Because I'm on this path and this is like what people know me for. And I don't quite want to do this anymore. So how do I amplify that other skill set? I think, let's see, I'm trying to back into the question here. I'll give a little bit of background. So I turned 40 last year, which most people are like, ew, 40, oh my God. But me, I'm like, I'm 40. Yeah. And there was something I was excited approaching it. But it was, instead of being like over the hill or, hopefully halfway through my life, only halfway through, with life expectancy these days, it was kind of like a great awakening for me. Like, I'm not going to go out and buy some shiny red sports car and, like get a ton of body piercings or something. It's like, okay, I have been on this like heads down track for so long, checking all the boxes of life that society has told me to check, got the house, got married, had kids, got an MBA, got a good job, that I kind of lost myself in all of that, just trying to fit into this box, and was so busy, too busy to realize it didn't suit. Yeah. And 40 for me was like, I'm going to focus more on me. That break from the job was very, made me realize I need to spend more time on my health, on myself, doing things that make me happy, and that no one is going to do that for me. It has to be a proactive, intentional choice every day to not subscribe to the moms are martyrs and you're a martyr to everybody in your life and you basically don't matter other than to be a conduit to make other people happy. And I was like, no more. This is the year of me. So I dubbed it like my Renaissance year. Of course, no Renaissance lasts a year, they're longer. And I'm like, what changes do I want to make with my life? Just being more aware of people and opportunities and learning experiences that have popped into my life, and understanding that they have a purpose, and exploring them more instead of just, charging forward. Yes. And so as part of that, I decided I'm done with people pleasing. I am 40. This is who I am. I'm not changing. Love it or leave it. Don't care. I like me. And people who like me are the people that I want to be surrounded by, because those are the people that are going to support me and help me out, and that I want to help. And then there was the career piece. It was, I'm really good at these things, but now I really want to do this. And so it was around last summer where that word authenticity, that was that spark for you and me reconnecting. I was like, I just want to be appreciated for being authentic, and I want to be in a safe space where I can be me. And then I was scrolling through LinkedIn and this post pops up like, are you looking for a way to, own your authenticity and lead like you? Join this group coaching session. And I was like, oh, that's it. That's what I need. I need a coach. And I'm like, I know, Nikki, and I love your personality, and I feel like you're that positive force that I need. And so loved the coaching experience, the group coaching. It was a nice toe in the water because I was like, I feel like I need help, but I don't know what that's going to mean for me. Like, what am I going to get out of this exactly? And do I really need more than 6 sessions? Just being kind of uncertain. So it was a nice toe in the water. And I just couldn't believe you could deal with any situation that somebody came to you with. You had time for everyone. You were genuinely present and actively providing legit great advice that I was making mental note of. Everybody got free, like the same airtime. You were never critical or stoic or formal. There was just this genuineness about you wanting these women to succeed and believe in themselves. And so coming off of that, I was like, I need more of this. Like this, it's like a drug, right? Like I need this co-pilot in my life right now. I can't think of a better person to have guiding me through this. And so I'm making a career change, and I don't know how I would have gotten this far without you, but every session I get so much out of it. I'm like, there can't be more. There's more. There's always more. Like, do this audit, do morning pages, try looking into human design. And then again, spark moment with the human design. It's just, oh, this is me, and I can be me, and I could talk about how I feel and what I want to do. And I don't have to worry about judgment. And if anything, I can count on encouragement when I'm feeling a little low or discouraged at, this point in my search. So yeah, I can't even remember what your question was, Nikki, but you're awesome. And the coaching has just been phenomenal.
Well, I almost started crying like 3 times during that, because
Oh,
I will tell you, first of all, I'm gonna fan myself. Thank you for all of that wonderful gushing. And I think there is like one of the pieces that why I thought it was so important. One, because I think your story is something that so many people will relate to. But 2, that feeling that you were talking about I actually don't even know what the fuck this is going to be. Like, that sounds good. That feels good. But I live in a culture where you're trying to sell me easy button shit. You're selling me 1-800 this and you're going to solve all my problems. I'm supposed to go on a vacation and I'm fixed. I'm supposed to buy these pair of shoes and I'm great. This, again, I'm supposed to pierce my body, tattoo myself, and buy a car and everything's solved. Like, we have a very transactional culture. And so when we're looking at the idea of authenticity, it feels very bizarre to have that then be transactive. It's like, wait a second. Ugh. Like, I know the word, I know that it's like the green grass on the other side that I want, but how does this happen in this space? And I think, it's funny. I feel like I've been having this conversation a lot lately, but coaching in particular has become an industry where, like, I remember 2016, 2017, when I started training and got my certification, I was anti calling myself a coach. I was like, nope, not going to do it. And that's before now. I mean, the number of coaches in the industry is, I was just like, I believe, because at least my belief in coaching is that I am just here as a guide, because you've got it all in you anyway. There's just all this shit that our society's put in the way for you to be able to see it. And unfortunately, I think what happens when we have an unregulated industry like coaching, anybody can kind of raise their hand and call themselves a coach. And so it is this kind of weary vibe. And, it's funny. One of the people on my team and I, we both come from marketing, and now she's working with me in coaching. And we were both talking about the fact that it has this kind of snake oil salesman taboo, both of the industries. Like, how do we go from one to the other? How come we couldn't pick one that was like, we didn't have to be like, no, I swear I'm not trying to, pull anything over your eyes. And I think there is such an important part as we're trying to navigate. This is like this soft underbelly that I've been hiding and really want to bring it out, but I don't want it to be exploited. I don't want it to be extracted. I want it to actually be a generative, authentic, transformative experience. But what does that look like? Is that 6 weeks? Is that 6 months? Is that 6? What does that look like? Because I've been doing it for decades, and like, how do I unlearn all that shit? And so I do think it is so important to honor what that experience is for you. Every person's is different. And it's in the way that how 6 years of my business have learned that it is important to create space for people to find their version of it rather than to tell them the 5 steps to do it exactly the right way. And again, I don't think our culture that is super masculine, super direct, I use a lot of penetrative phallic kind of language about the fact that like when we have a very masculine culture, there is a very direct line. There is no collective circular cyclical. And also our lives are set up that way. So it's like the opposite to be like, I'm actually not going to tell you the 5 things you got to do in your fix because that's not a thing. Like there is no 5 things to do when you're fixed. It's where are you? What do you need right now? And what can support you? And so I do think I love so much. There's so many parts of this. I'm like, oh yeah, that happened. Oh yeah, that happened. I remember one of the first times you came on a call and you started sharing an experience and you said, I know you're going to tell me that I'm doing this all wrong, but, and then you were telling, it was something about your, I think it was like the job search or something. And you're like, I know I'm supposed to be doing all this. And so you're going to, and I remember being like, this is it. This is the shit. We're told that we have to do it the one way. And I was like, no, Pam, you're doing it exactly right. Because you're doing it the way that you're set up to do it. And you were like, fuck, I didn't even know that was an option. Maybe you didn't swear. I swear a little bit more than anybody, but you know, how much space there is for there to be more than one option moving forward, that there is, again, your lane. You're not running in my lane. I'm not running in your lane. You're running in your own lane. And maybe you're walking and maybe you're resting in your own lane, and that's okay. And so how important it is to be able to honor and acknowledge that, yes, we are in a culture where there is transaction that happens, but the goal of something like coaching, and if you're trying to build your relationship with your authenticity that you were born with having, that has been stripped of you, you know, whether you're hitting 20, 30, 40, wherever you are, because for me, it was the physical breakdown at 30 that was like, girl, you got to get out of here. Like, I don't know what's happening, but we cannot do another 30 of these. And it's one of those things that's like, okay, now, I might not be for everybody, but you know what is for you. And so allowing yourself to kind of lean into that, I do think is so important, especially when we're talking about, as we were talking about before, the entire landscape of the workplace is shifting and changing significantly right now. If anybody is having like, you know, a really smooth experience, please reach out to me and tell me how you're doing it, because the entire ground foundation is shaking. The like magma is coming up and creating a new normal. And I know that was something we said a lot, or wanted our new normal early in the pandemic, but like really so much has crumbled. We need to kind of find our footing. And so if that is something you're experiencing, it is important to honor and acknowledge who you are and what you feel. But also if you are in a state where you've been broken down so much that you're told that you can't trust that, it can be really challenging to be like, okay, I'm going to take a chance on this. So one of the things I love so much in knowing you before, knowing you over a decade ago, and to even having this conversation now, reflecting back to the summer, is the activation. I know you said something, it's easy. It is, you're actually programmed to be able to be yourself, right? And to be able to honor yourself, but it's also not easy to take what is everybody else's luggage off your back that you've been walking around with, to realize how you can now stand up straight and not be bent over. Like it's easier because you take the weight off, but it's harder to learn how to bring it back up. It's also emotionally harder to realize, holy crap, look at all this crap I've been carrying around. And so holding that space for that journey is so important. And again, as that kind of guide, as that co-pilot of sorts, it's like, hey, you're not crazy. This is happening. And it makes sense that it's happening. And you're doing it exactly the way you need to do it. Keep going. Is so important. I mean, I think I've worked with coaches. I've worked with many different coaches. I've been going to therapy since I was like 9. I think it is so important for us to have that level of support, especially if, right, the person that is supposed to be that for your work journey is telling you, swallow it.
Yep.
You're making it up.
Swallow it, or maybe this isn't the right place for you anymore.
Right.
Like, wow.
Yeah. And how that shifts and changes so much. And so I am beyond excited and glad to hear that. So thank you for it. But also I am so happy that you have honored so much of yourself through this journey too, because I know personally, I'm excited for who gets to work with you next in this kind of pivot of your career, of your title. And, especially where we are right now, where LinkedIn applicant tracking systems. I was like, I've got the letters, ATS. Applicant tracking systems are very like AI centric, right? It's not about the human. It's not about the ability to see transferable skills. It's not about the ability to kind of infer in between the lines. It's about like, where is that key word? How that idea of where we are right now, a lot of people are having what I've talked about before, but is called turnover shock, where it's like this huge event happened. And usually it's like everybody has huge events happen in their life at different timelines, but we're all in a collective huge event. And we're all like, what am I going to do for my job now? Why am I spending so much time here? Right. So there's this experience of like, how do I take all of the very valuable experience I have, but maybe it's not the road that if I started here today, or if I wanted to go and be, in an employee experience mode, that I would have started there. But I've got all of this amazing experience that actually is probably going to be more beneficial than if I was like, let me go to class for this. So can you talk a little bit about what that experience has been about pivoting and like understanding those skills that you have, owning those skills that you have, communicating those skills that you have, and your job search in that process?
Sure. So for me, I'm really thankful that I went through all of that pre-COVID, because I felt like it equipped me really well, again, unplanned, to be a support mechanism for my team and others working with me, where, I came into that role during COVID, the role I'm in currently. And I mean, I think my regular question with my direct report and other teammates that I talk to is, what's your workload looking like? How are you feeling? Like those are it's not, what did you get done? It's how are you? How are you feeling? And I think knowing that I genuinely mean that, and that they can tell me if it's too much. And sometimes I'm like, are you sure you're fine? Because if you're not, we can take stuff off your plate. Yeah. All those things that I wish people had done for me, I am now paying forward to my team. Yes. And they're like, I'm good, but thank you. I'll let you know. And then there are times where they say, you know what, this is actually creating a big drain. All right, let's get down to brass tacks. Like, what can we take off your plate? What can I do for you? What can you delegate? Those sorts of things. So I think in a very like organic, informal way, that has leached much more into my management style, and I'm doing what I can to amplify that.
Yeah.
At the higher managerial level, like when I'm talking to my manager and to some of the other folks who manage people, I'm always focused on retention. Like, are people happy? Like, I don't think free food in the office is the way to go. I think
table.
Yeah, like a lot of people got healthier through the pandemic. They don't want, fried Oreos and ice cream and grilled cheese trucks every day. Like, they want time to exercise, and maybe they want like a meditation room or a nice outdoor green space. What can we do to make sure that our team is happy, fulfilled, feels like they can talk about their career journeys, and create psychological safety for them? It's just been a huge, huge focus of mine. I also have sort of discreetly gone when I sense that there's an employee that I have a relationship with, and I can tell they're not happy. I have reached out to them just to say, hey, I just wanted to check in, like, how are you doing? See what comes out of it. And in some cases, it's led to coaching them to either staying or leaving, but empowering them with that choice, telling them how important their happiness is and their health is. And like, these are things that are bothering you. Do you think these are going to change? And if not, stop trying to push this rock up the hill, and I can help you. I will be a reference. I will be this. It's probably not a thing that employers want to hear, but like, if you've got somebody who's miserable and unhappy, they're not going to be performing their best. And if we can help them get someplace else, I will be that person. And then you can fill that role with somebody who's, excited and new and brings something different to the table. So those are ways where I've sort of started organically seeding that, employee engagement. What was the other part of your question? I need to.
No, my question was, that was, first of all, beautiful. It's so funny. I just was interviewed for an article this past week about how companies can actually navigate the Great Resignation and what they can do to create space for people to stay. What happens for those people that are actually not trying to leave, but like they're getting inflicted so much of the impact of the departures, and we're forgetting them. And so I feel like what you just gave as solutions for anybody that's looking for an employee experience person, Pam just gave you a whole bunch. I think there is such an important part of acknowledging the fact that to address a problem isn't a bad thing. I think, again, I could get on my soapboxes about a bunch of things. I could get it on it
I
about
love a good soapbox.
I could talk about, white supremacy culture in our workplace, oppressive dynamics in our workplace, that if you're not allowed to actually say something's wrong, it's a much bigger problem. People are going to leave anyway. But like creating a culture where it's okay to acknowledge those things is so important. The second part of my question was, what has it been like? I know I've obviously gotten to have this, exchange with you and support you through some of this, but how has it been in the job search process as you're pivoting? What kind of things, have either come up for you, or, you can talk about some of the stuff if you want to that we've worked through, but like, there are a lot of people right now coming out of that like aha moment of like, I have been spending, we'll act like it's 40 hours a week, but it's more like 60 to 70 hours a week on something I don't like. So having these moments of like, this is what I want to do. And my training, my letters at the end of my name, my resume might not be a straight line to it. How has that experience been for you in yes, the employee experience part, but just being like redefining a little bit of like, here's who I am and what I do because I can do, like, I've got all the receipts. They might not be the receipts you're used to, but here they are.
Yeah, I would say never having navigated a career change before, it's been really hard. And I'll harken back to just how valuable or invaluable you have been in creating all these little like mile markers of, well, here's a whole bunch of different things that you can do. One, we got to try to rewrite your story. Like the resume probably needs to be updated. That was sort of the thing that I went to and I was like really hooked on, like this is how anybody's going to find me. And you were like, well, no, actually you could do networking. You can start following other companies. You can start attending events and posting original content on LinkedIn. You've been wonderful in connecting me to people that are in the spaces that I want to be in, if you know of them. I will say the application front has been hard, real hard. Never in my life have I had so many rejections, and they're like canned rejections. Like I think I spent like 3 hours one night just grinding, trying to write a damn cover letter and flip my resume. And I think I got rejected like within 24 hours. I was like, oh my God, it took you like less time to reject me than it did for me to write this cover letter. This is awful. And it can be really discouraging. So I think just your knowledge of the space, your working with other people who are going through the same thing has helped validate that it's not me. This is how it is. Things have changed. I think you've sent me some like really great articles. I myself have become more comfortable with your encouragement of just reaching out blind to people on LinkedIn, particularly who are working at companies that I want to work for. And I'm not asking them, hey, I want a job. Can you you don't do that. But it's like, can you tell me a little bit about your journey and how you got there? What's this company like? I'm thinking I might, want to work there one day. And I can't believe how many people I've connected with who I literally feel like are friends and I've maybe exchanged like a couple of LinkedIn threads with. Yeah. And they have now, like all of those seeds are starting to pop. Like people are coming to me and saying, my company's hiring a bit more, Pam. Like you should look at these jobs. I'll put a referral in for you. I'm like, holy cow, like all this work, all these, I'll call it a plan, but it's been a very convenient nonlinear plan for me because I don't work in the linear anymore.
Yeah.
Sometimes I want to go from 3 to 5 to 1 and skip 2 entirely and like maybe 7, just because I'm bored, but it's low value, like whatever. Yeah. And you've been wonderfully accommodating in me hopping around and knowing that that's my style, that I can see that there's a million different ways to approach this kind of search, and you just do what feels right. And all of it is work towards the ultimate, the ultimate end result. And so I don't think I would have seen that. No, let me go back. I would not have seen that had I not had you guiding me and just having this endless like Mary Poppins carpet bag of we can try this and we can do this, and you're pulling out a lamp and there's a plant and Okay.
Want
This
to
is
fly?
great. A
Let's
career
go.
audit, like
Yeah.
look at these job descriptions and, and then I've had interviews where people have come to me with jobs and I'm like, oh, I'd be really good at this, but would I be happy? And you've been really good at like helping me, giving me a sounding board to say, Pam, does this feel right? Like, don't force yourself into like another thing if it doesn't feel right. And it's okay if you get an offer and you turn it down.
Yeah.
It's, you know, you gotta, again, like you're the only person who's gonna like make sure you're happy in the end. And so focus on that. And so I think just having that partner on the journey, like when I need to pick me up, you're there. You're like the therapist, the coach, my Gandalf wizard of, amazing tricks and potions. And you're also like my pep squad. You're always positive and genuinely so. Um, it's, I don't know, it's just, you're like one of those critical pieces in that village that everybody says you need a village.
Yes, you do.
I think a lot of people need and would benefit from a career coach. And I certainly have. And I'm feeling so much more optimistic about my search and my shift, after all the work that you and I have done, than I think I would have, than I know I would have. Again, let's be affirmative. Had I tried to do this on my own, I'd just be smacking my head against the wall or, going for the same old job that I know that I can get. So I'm excited. Like I know the right thing's going to drop at the right time and I'll know it when it happens. And all these rejections will have been not doors in the face, but like making sure that I go down the right path. And it's exciting. It's
Yeah.
exciting.
It's so funny. There, of course, I'm trying to keep my Mary Poppins bag at bay a little. So one of the things that this, but I will say just for the audience that I'm very intentional about in coaching is that we record our sessions. And one of the things that keeps popping in my brain is like, Pam, I want to get to like the recording of our first session because I have had the benefit of seeing the summer to now. And like you're living it every day. So you see the kind of progression every moment of every day. You see the ups, downs all around. And you already were and are, but were even, in the summer, the amazing human you are right now. And also this shift in knowledge, confidence, knowing, and really that resonance with who you are is like next. I get off our calls and I'm like, hell yeah. Like there is a part of this that is just so, it is why I do what I do. Right. And so I think it is, as we talk about that village, when you're surrounded by people that believe in their worth, that believe in the fact that it is important for them to invest time in the thing that gives them energy, in the thing that makes them feel like they're reaching their purpose and they're activating the elements of their life that make them feel passionate, it is something that is so contagious. And so it is so beautiful to be witnessing this and to bear witness. So I find it like a wonderful, generous gift to me. But I also think it's so important for you to be, there's not many times in our lives, unless you're like the Kardashians, where you've been on TV since you were born, okay, maybe not, depending. We're talking Kylie and Kendall, maybe on since they were born, but that you can go back. I don't know, but you can go back and see yourself at different states and actually bear witness to the growth that's happened. And so a huge part of why I think it's so important to be able to leverage technology is that when we get to see that, we can really see how far we've come. There's not very many things in life that actually give us that opportunity, especially as adults. We have these paths up until college and maybe grad school where it's like, here's the path, here are the grades you need to get to, here's a diploma. But once you get into adulthood, there's not very many kind of diploma-esque moments. There's not very many kind of milestone markers. And so being able to have that chronicle, I think is so important, but also like, it is such a testament to the strength and the growth that you had within you, that literally like why I think it's so important as we talk about coaches, not to see the coach as your savior or your messiah or any, because there are some weird power dynamics that happen, right? Some kind of culty dynamics that happen. But when you can see that like all that is you, I'm the guide. I'm here to be like, yeah, you can do this because I know and believe you can. But like being able to watch how much people can shift and change into who they already were because we took the layers of shit, we took the luggage off them.
Yes.
It's fascinating. The ability to watch somebody kind of stand up straight and feel that strength in their spine that like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I got this. Like it is what I believe will unlock that future that everybody is like uncertain about. Like for me, there's a level of certainty of like, oh shit, like I mean, we've done it before as human beings. We are very resilient. And what we are really good at is actually coming together and making things work. Unfortunately, we've been indoctrinated into a culture that tells us to do the opposite, especially in America, to be aware of other people, to compete against everybody, to keep your stuff as close to the breast at the chest as possible, to make sure you're going to get the most out of every moment, to get your piece of the pie before anybody else can take it. All of that is counterintuitive to what we are programmed for. And so, especially why I do the things that I do, one of it is the women's leadership coaching for sure. That is literally was an unlearning process for me, but also creating a space for like this reality of feminine leadership. And it doesn't mean you have to be a woman, but stepping into an alternative approach to leadership that actually is inclusive and collective, and we actually all do get to rise together, is a game changer because it takes away all of that shit that stops you from believing in yourself. Because it's funny because, right, it's like, oh, we focus on the collective, it actually boosts the individual as well. But if we fear the collective, we think, okay, I'm just going to keep building myself up. Why is this not working? Let me buy more things to make this work. And it doesn't happen. And so then we think, oh, you know what? I'm actually a defect. It's me that's broken. It's not the world around me. Okay. The other thing, oh, there's a couple different things. My Mary Poppins bag. I love it. There is, and I'm going to have to find this to put it in the show notes, but there is this, is it MIT? I'm trying to remember. There's a woman, I watched this very long in-depth thing about like game theory, which I don't really know game theory, but it was all about the shift in the way that companies should effectively be hiring for the employee base that you have now in the future. That it should be that you're hiring people based on their potential, rather than based on their past experience. That you're not hiring somebody based on the things that they've done already so they can keep doing it again, but like, what is their potential? What are the signposts that have shown that can show that they can actually step into this role and make it even more powerful than it could be? I will find that and drop it in the show notes, and I will also send it to you, Pam, because I think you'll really enjoy it. You can kind of skip the slides on the deep game theory because I didn't completely understand that. The other part that I think that is so important is, and I think so powerful in you sharing your story, is like, how many people have felt that weight on their chest? How many people have felt, I don't want to get up. I don't want to do this thing that like never felt this bad for me before. And being able to kind of normalize that and hold space for it while also moving through it is so important. I don't know if have you ever seen the show Big Mouth on Netflix?
No.
It's a cartoon, which again, it's adult cartoon, but they actually,
sounds like me.
It's actually really good. I highly recommend it. They also just came out with a new one this week called Human Resources, which I'm super excited about. But
fantastic.
I'll send them all to you and they'll be in the show notes. But in Big Mouth, they actually talk about anxiety and depression, and they talk about, there's a cat, this very heavy cat. I wrote Depression Kitty. I don't know if this is called, but they actually make it so it is something that's cartoon and like you can see it outside yourself. And also, as somebody that has also dealt with anxiety and depression, I was like, oh fuck, that's exactly what it feels like. Thank you for putting this. It looks like the Cheshire Cat. Like, thank you for making this thing. And so it can be separate from who I am. That my validity, my worth, and my ability to be myself is not taken away by that. It's just, again, one of those pieces I can take off of myself. And so I think you sharing your story and being like, hey guys, here it is. I can actually show you and talk to you about it rather than it being my worth. There is so much power in that. And so I think it's so amazing that you have been willing to stand in front of that kind of that leadership that's not allowing people to be there and hold space, but also to turn around and talk to that leadership to say, hey, we're going to create this space and allow people to be here and be themselves, because I know that's the future I want to see. So I just want to say thank you so freaking much for joining, for talking about your story, for coming back into my world, because my goodness, we used to sit next to each other. So this is just like real nice little, we're back together. And honestly, like, I can't thank you enough for your generosity. And being here and bringing who you are to the table. I will tell you that Lead Like You experience last summer would not be the same without you. So I'm just so grateful. And for all of you who are looking for somebody to do employee experience work, whether you call it that or not, like, just call Pam. Like, I don't know what you're doing if you haven't done it yet, but find Pam. We'll put all of her information in the show notes for you to hire her, work with her, ask her questions, create this amazing community of people that thinks this is the way we got to go forward. So Pam, thank you so much for coming. Is there anything else you want to share? before we go?
Just that if you are looking to make a career shift or struggling at some point in your career, coaches are a wonderful option. And if you're looking for somebody who is genuine and who is aligned with, progressive values, I hope you're okay with me saying that, progressive values and shifting the workforce and having a real impact, particularly for women, so that it becomes a more fair playing field. Nikki Innocent is the way to go, because yeah, no, seriously, Nikki. I mean, like, I knew I'd enjoy working with you, but I had no idea that I was going to get as much as I have out of you. I mean, out of the experience, out of you sounds terrible, but out of the experience, it's just, I don't know. It's like it was meant to be, right? It's just the universe had it destined, and, the chemistry's there, and the fireworks are going to start popping, and we're both going to be propelling ourselves further to where we want to be. So I'm very excited about the future, and I'm glad to have you right there next to me. So thank you.
The future is bright. And Pam also was on a podcast that we will ensure that we include in the notes as well. So you can hear more of Pam's amazing story. Oh, I'm just so grateful for you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you too, Nikki. Thanks for having me.
Okay, my friends, thank you so much for listening to this episode. For real, if you are looking for an employee experience person to come on your team and just change the game, definitely reach out to us. Happy to put you in connection with Pam. We're going to include some of her information on the show notes as well. And if you're really considering coaching and it feels like after listening to this, working with me might be helpful, definitely go to nikkiinnocent.com/coaching or go to the website. You'll see under the coaching tab, there's a couple different ways to look at it. If you're still not sure, again, feel free to reach out to us at info@nikkiinnocent.com and we will point you in the right direction. If you have a specific thing that you want coaching on and you're not sure if we work on it, don't worry, reach out to us because we have a network of coaches that we know. So if it's not us, we will point you in the right direction for sure. I can't wait until next episode, and I hope you all have a wonderful day ahead.